This is part 2 of the topic 5 videos. In part 1, we specified a growdiff file, and in this part, we want to check the results of the growdiff file. Now, since you've already seen the first part video, you know that we got ahead of ourselves and we did some checking. But what I want to do in this short version is to show you an alternative way to use some of the command line tools to verify that our growdiff file is in fact generating the alternative economic growth path that we want to simulate. So I'm going to shift over to the Anaconda prompt. I'm here in the topic 5 working directory. We can, instead of dumping all the files out, we can use our grep command to filter out just the ones that start with tax dash. So those are just the output files, right? So if I hit enter, we can see that we have two sets of runs here. The one, we're going to be focusing on the parameter output files, the ones that end in .par. When we use the default economic growth assumptions, the names of the output files look like this. When we use the alternative growth assumptions that were in this t5v_gd.json file, and the model wrote output files with that name. So the naming convention the model uses is to try to help you remember what you specified on the command line when you told the model what run to do. So we just did a listing for the wages before with the grep command, but what I want to show you here is using the diff utilities. So we have a TA diff utility where you put two file names in, and it's going to show you on the screen what is the difference between the two. So I've done a copy to the clipboard of this. I prefer to have the baseline assumption first on the left and the alternative growth assumption on the right. So when we hit this, it says there's no differences. But when we stop and think about that, that's exactly what we should have expected, because the alternative growth assumption was specified to begin in 2020. So when we do this for 2019, we get the same thing, no differences. So this is all to be expected. Here, now things are different, and we can see that on the right, which is what the greater sign is pointing on that last line here, this is a convention to say this is the file on the right, the second one that you specified. This is the value on the left. The fact that it's showing you nothing else than this one single difference means that all the other parameter values are exactly the same. And we can continue. So I'm going to skip over the intermediate years and go right to 2025. And there we saw what we saw before. Now, this is a matter of preference. This is sort of an abstract concept, this diff business. We can maybe make it clear what's going on by using the graphical diff utility, okay? It's exactly the same command as before, except it's got a G before the diff. So it's TA gdiff. So what this is going to show is both the files side by side. So you see the context, and it's going to have all the rows in the files. But it's going to use color to highlight the rows that are different. Okay, maybe what we should do is make this a little more balanced. Now, you're saying, well, what's the deal here? It's all white. I don't see any of the color you were talking about. Well, it's showing us the full content of the file, but we're not using any color because if you look closely, these numbers are exactly the same. These are the various policy. But when we scroll down to the bottom, we see the one place where it is different, here in the yellow, the wages. So that's it. That's another alternative for looking at differences between files. If you want to see the context as well as the highlighted differences, you can try the TA gdiff command. If you want to just see things at the screen, then use the TA diff utility. So that's it. In the next video, we'll look at the aggregate economic effects. I'm sorry, the aggregate revenue, tax revenue effects of this alternative growth assumption. That's it.